Okay, go.
I go. And now, grab the popcorn, drink a little drink, smoke a little smoke, and get cozy in the sheets. For you, yes, you are about to see the most exciting Mario Lost
Cozy in the
feat ever
sheets.
crafted from bare hands.
Really? Which one?
Oh, waiting for the explanation, right? This was a demo
Yeah.
for the Virtual Boy Shonen Show Shinkai 95. It seemingly tests the stereoscopic capabilities of the console, and it's got Mario front and center. Okay, is it a game? If not, can we even consider this lost? Is this what Nixon was talking about during the 18.5-minute gap? The world may never know. Speaking of which, they say what we don't know.
No way.
Yoshi Racers was one such game where we didn't know what exactly we were looking for. Later in the lifespan of the Super Nintendo, an onboard processor was included on some games called the Super Effects chip. You probably know of two games that included this chip, Yoshi's Island and Star Fox, two of the most critically acclaimed games on the SNES. Despite this,
Okay.
8 games were released with the chip, and most others in development were either moved to the N64 or were scrapped entirely. One such game was by the developers of Star Fox, Argonaut Software, who dreamed of something big. A fully 3D platformer featuring that of Yoshi.
I'm sorry.
Yoshi! We all know him.
Yoshi.
How deeply beloved his presence may be. So,
Yeah.
Argonaut threw together a pitch demo and showed it to the big end. They rejected them on the spot. Why? Because they considered the territory too unfamiliar and the developer too over their head. This led to a breaking point in the relationship between Argonaut and Nintendo, with the latter releasing Super Mario 64 just 2 years later, filling a suspiciously 3D platformer shaped hole in the zeitgeist. Good old
Yeah.
one of their employees at either a trade show or a metro station. Sources vary, and apologized for rejecting the Yoshi game and making Mario 64 instead. A seemingly hollow gesture. Truly a tragedy. Good golly, someone
But
get me next.
Mario
That is if the
64
story was actually
is a good ass game,
in the
so.
early 2000s, this was the narrative told on many different articles and forums. That Nintendo outright rejected Argonaut's game and stole their idea for a 3D platformer. Many sources also stated that Argonaut turned their
No,
pitch into game Croc
Stole.
Legend of the Gabos out of pure spite, considering the similarities between the design of Croc and Yoshi. It wasn't until Digital Gaming made us know about gaming. They did some independent research into determining
Did
that
us
several
know
aspects of
about
the story are
gaming?
completely unverifiable. 1. There's very little evidence of Miyamoto saying what he is said to have actually said, namely because of how inconsistently the story is told throughout time. 2. Croc wasn't really created out of spite for Argonaut's rejection. It was more like they didn't want what little work they did to go to waste. 3. And this is the dagger like Kawaii in Game 7. Yoshi Racers was never in a playable state, and was literally just a demo. It wasn't even running on SNES
okay.
hardware. This essentially puts an end to the search for the game, but it would be cool to at least get a glimpse into what that demo looked like, even if it wasn't playable. So here's the cool thing about Mario. The games are so universal and so well known that you can basically do whatever you want with them, no matter how much the big end tries to get in your way. Case in point, what the hell is Albasha's Adventures? As you can probably tell from this
Here we go.
the game is a ROM hack of Super Mario Bros., created in 1995 with Arabic theming. Mario is seen dressed as a pasha while traversing through traditional landscapes, where the pipes are pots and the question mark blocks are replaced with exclamation point? From what little we can see of the game through the footage, it seemed to just be a graphical swap with no actual changes to the gameplay. In any case, we can't play it. It's known to be present on several shady multi-cards and Famiclones of the era, as ROM hacks typically are. It's rumored that a producer of one such Famiclone which contains the game, Lamar International, is responsible for the game's creation, but this has not been completely confirmed. Now
I don't
let's
know
take a detour
what
to
is
something
going on
even
with
more
my-
awesome than Arabic ROM hack of Mario. Cards. Mario
My
cards.
dog.
Mario quiz cards. They are a set of educational flashcards released between
Okay.
1995 and 1997 by two book publishers in Atlas Editions and Newfield Publications, with the former acquiring the latter sometime during production. They seem to be based on an earlier set of educational cards, that being the French series Fish's Tintin, produced by Atlas in 1992. There were 91 decks released, each having 20 cards from 18 different categories, bringing the total amount to 1,820 cards. I know you're thinking this is ultra mundane thus far.
That's a
Wait until
lot.
I show you Luigi reading about Hitler. Or how about Bowser admiring Al Capone? The thing that makes these even funnier is that it seems the publishers put a lot of work into making these fit within the Mario universe, using official references such as the Nintendo character manual for getting specific colors and designs down to a T. Luckily, this wild juxtaposition of the Mario madness we're used to has brought much attention to this otherwise obscure set of cards. Like other educational card sets, they were only available through a mail subscription service, with customers first receiving sample packs of 12 cards before deciding
Okay.
whether to order a full set. This meant that preservation could be all over the place for something like this. But over the years, the puzzle pieces came together, and now all but 6 of the 91 decks can be found in full, none of which are completely
Yo.
lost. On the opposite
This
end of the
is
availability
crazy.
spectrum, there's a game out there where no one can seem to agree on the name, like that one zone from Sonic 3. Mario's Mission Earth, or Mario's Planet Quest, depending on how specific you want to be on any given day, is apparently being developed by the software Toolworks, the same people who developed Mario's Missing and Mario's Time Machine. It's safe to assume
Mario's
that
Missing.
development of this game coincided with the development of those two games. In the
Oh, we
mid-90s.
saw this one too.
That's all we really have. The only reference to this game's existence is on the website for composer Mark Knight, who, what do you know, also composed the music for Mario's Time Machine. He's listed here as the music arranger. How fancy. Yep, this is the point in the video where we get into the real meat and potatoes. At Space World 1995, an early build
Okay.
of the absolutely iconic game Super Mario 64 was shown to spectators and eager fans who wanted to experience Mario in 3 whole dimensions, baby. It's arguably the most famous early build of any game, well, ever, right up there with the Sonic 1 Tokyo Toy Show prototype. What's interesting to note, however, is that the Space World build is not necessarily one build, but a collection of a few different builds loosely associated with the show and its promotional material, adding layers upon layers of lost media like a tasty lasagna. I can't highlight every difference here, obviously, but I can go over some of the more notable ones. The HUD has different
Layers.
spots and icons as compared to the final game. This includes the life bar, which resembles either different variations of the pie piece one we see in the final game, or this clock-like one with numeric values. The castle has a different design both inside and
What?
out, the inside specifically having a night theme as opposed to the day theme we eventually got. Different textures and models also litter the build, like the coins, stars, enemies, and of course, the levels. Speaking of the levels, there was also a minimap in this build. It didn't really serve a ton of purpose aside from showing where Mario was, but it's the thought that counts. You can now play as Luigi. Sorta. He was at least featured in some capacity as shown in this footage here, although he likely wasn't playable as this is clearly a test level. The Sho Shinkai build might as well be the most well-documented
okay.
early build of any game ever, that is, of early builds that aren't playable. We even know what the actual cartridge looks like. You can't say the same for Donkey Kong Banko Asobi, and yet its presence eludes even the most dedicated searchers. But it's not a total loss because of a certain breach in Nintendo's levies. On July 25th, 2020, insane amounts of internal data rushed out of
2020.
Nintendo's closely guarded vaults, washing upon 4chan the curiosity of those of us who revere the unknown. It included
Okay.
assets from primarily the SNES and N64 eras, including assets from some famous games like Mario 64. Soon enough, assets shown in the Sho Shinkai build popped up, including Luigi, 24 years and 1 month after the game's release. Hell was real all along. But this isn't the end
Okay.
of WikiLeaks' wrath upon this video, for you see the once vague waves of Mario 64's development washed upon the shore as well. Super Mario Kart R was also first hacked up for public consumption at Space World 95. If you're wondering what the R stood for, it means Rizzler. Wait, render. Rendered.
What is that?
Unlike Mario 64 and most games at that year's Space World, the game looked to be complete, and all that was changed seemed to be purely aesthetic. There was a second timer for some reason. The item boxes are black. There's a different looking title screen and character selection. Superficial changes to the blind eye. And then there's Magic Koopa. Kamek, as the Europeans say. For reasons that are
Kamek.
incomprehensible to the human
We call it
He
Kamek.
replaces Donkey Kong in this build of the game. That was not going to fly in any way, shape, or form, so Nintendo did a good thing that doesn't ruin their brand image for once. Magic Koopa would have to wait until Mario Kart Tour to get its time in the spotlight. I said earlier that the Giga Leak gave us at least some insight into some content from the Super Mario Kart
long
arcade
time,
with
bro.
this game's development, as while the build shown at Space World is not playable, many assets from it were leaked. These were icons for cut items like the feather, a weight, and some marbles, some old track models, unused textures, and most intriguing of all, a whole cut track known in the files as Town. Guess what it is? It's got buildings, grass, a tunnel, all of the typical town stuff we all know and love.
Okay.
This track had
Yeah.
actually been referenced before in an interview of Miyamoto conducted way back in 1996, along with a parking garage track, which has textures left over in the league, but no model unfortunately. It goes to show you how massive this
crazy.
was. Formerly mysterious and infamous cut portions of games would just show up. Hey, you know what else is massive? Project Atlantis was going to
That's
be
Ninja.
the original Game Boy, on par specs-wise with what would become the Game Boy Advance.
What?
Now, I'd hate to recycle a joke,
Wait.
but this device was truly massive. This is a size comparison between a DS
No way.
and Project Atlantis, as shown at the 2009 Game Developers Conference. But it wasn't just large on the outside, it had quite the beefy spec sheet inside as well. According to magazines like Electronic Gaming Monthly and Game Informer, it would have had a 32-bit processor, 3x2 color LCD screen, and 4 face buttons.
Sorry.
Oh, don't let your daughter mess with this one. But any good video game console needs a good library of games, and when it comes to Nintendo, a flagship Mario title is a necessity. Cough cough, switch 2, cough cough. In the same EGM article, which
Did I just listen to this joke? That. Oh my god. Oh my god.
brings up Project Atlantis, it states that Nintendo of Japan is working on the first game for the console, titled Mario's Castle. This is the only mention of any game going by this name, and if it existed at all, it likely suffered its demise alongside Project Atlantis. The console was deemed too powerful and too expensive to produce, and thus it was scrapped,
Okay.
with only incremental revisions of the Game Boy being released for the rest of the 90s. But this leaves Mario's Castle in a precarious position. Did the game actually exist? Was it ever playable? Game magazine writers and editors are often known for their surgically precise trolling, particularly back in the day when they were the main source of information on the gaming landscape.
Yeah.
Until we get some concrete answers, Mario's Castle will still have a big existence unconfirmed tag slapped onto it. I told you all we would get back to the Super Mario World based arcade games eventually, and to cap off this trilogy, we have Super Mario World Mario Attack, released in 1996 by Bandai
Mario
Namco.
Attack,
This
bro.
game was more or less just gambling again. You would insert your
Okay.
and try to navigate Mario using the K power-up. You would have to dive within 15 seconds to try to
Che
hook up as many
Okay.
power-ups and coins as possible, with how many you collected factoring to how many these tokens could then be redeemed for other prizes at It's like Chuck E. Cheese if it was a casino. How intuitive. The Super Mario World based arcade game 3 years after its
No,
last
chicken
one, 5 years
cheese.
after the source material released in Japan is anyone's guess. Maybe the art style is just too timeless to truly be obsolete. But what we do know is that Mario Attack is the only one of these games to not be available online. We know of at least a few cabinets in the wild, including this one which is owned by a Japanese YouTuber by the name of Kikai, who did a review of the game on his channel. There are some
I think we
claims
saw
that
this
said he had
too.
no intention of dumping the game, though if they do exist I couldn't find them, and I doubt he's got any malicious intent in not releasing the game. Life is realizing that I've been working on this script for more than a month, and I'm still not done with the Super Nintendo era just yet. But I do it for the fans, so it all checks out.
No way.
DS Super Mario Collection was a game that lived up to its name of being a bunch of BS. That is, to actually play it, because you needed an add-on that, 1, only released in Japan, and 2, was made for the then antiquated Super Famicom. That's right, we're talking about a game for the good old Satellaview, which was more or less a satellite modem that passed downloadable content directly to your phone, whether it be games, news magazines, or even the ability to listen to radio. It was a rad, tubular, and technologically mondo concept for the time. Struggled sales-wise,
True.
Famicom's life, and never made it outside of Japan. Being a unique concept with no underlying precedent for preservation, you can't view all that much as a tele. This includes the aforementioned DS Super Mario Collection. It was essentially just Super Mario All-Stars, but with spick and span to fit the futuristic feel of the device it was made for. There's new content, such as a new opening cutscene, Toad House, and a world map. A timer is also present not to remind you to go take a shower, but to remind you when you've reached the end of your world cycle. You even have the option to listen to a Satellaview show by presenter Nei Yuki if you go to a fire flower on the map. One weird quirk about this game, and the Satellaview as a whole, is that since the games were broadcasted, only a certain amount of data could be transmitted at once, so all of Super Mario Bros.
Okay.
was broken up over a period of 4 weeks, between December 1997 and January 1998, with new segments of the game being playable at
I know that I don't say most anything, but I'm trying to listen.
concrete info about this game while it was initially broadcasted. And considering it was broken up into pieces, there's not a guarantee someone would have every piece of this Mario magic sitting on an already obscure television console. From what I can tell, you could save games to the console once they were broadcasted, meaning that some content has been found. Specifically, the ROMs
Okay.
3. 1 and 4 have footage online, but ROMs? Boy, this Satellaview is a trip. That's all I
Okay.
have to say. Here's something that will really dug those doilies.
Sonic.
We're staying in what was a technologically advanced moment for the game, piece of internet media. I know you were at the edge of your proverbial seat just waiting for it to come up. Fittingly enough, Nintendo really wanted to rub in the fact that this was for the net by calling it Mario's Net Quest. The game was created
Where's
in
Net
the
Quest?
Okay. Ballistic missile. I think I'd like to have a word. I'm sorry, he wanted to create a game to promote a line of computer servers. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. You follow Mario, as one does, who collects points when you click on one of the many items that pops up from the floor. Coins, red coins, stars, those kinds of things. What you don't want to click are enemies,
It's just that?
news, and bullies. Can't believe Nintendo was like, yeah, you know those kids who beat you up for lunch money because you're a smelly Nintendo fan? We're naming an enemy after them, so now you can live out your dreams as a hunky plumber who beats up everything in sight. Bowser is also here to win your day, as if you click on him,
Really?
game ends. It's like Whack-A-Mole, but with Mario and Pain. This is basically a scratch game, but what did you expect from the 90s? As for most lost media
True.
in this day and age, this game was just completely forgotten about for more than 25 years until some guy on Reddit was like, hey, this was a thing. In this case, user live detailed
A random person wake up and be like, wait, wait.
another fade that's massive, but I won't go there again. Later that same day, the .dcf shockwave file which contained the game was found, and Mario's Net Quest is now playable on a Flashpoint. Super
No
Mario
way.
64. 2 words and a number that have gripped the hearts of millions. But what if we put it on a disc? That's exactly what Nintendo was thinking when they released the N64 disc drive. An add-on which, much like the Satellaview, never made it outside of Nintendo's home country and is generally quite buried in the history books, that's for certain. It's an add-on for the N64 that, well, could play discs. Not like actual big boy CDs though, more like dinky winky itsy bitsy magnetic clock. See
Bro,
where I'm going with this.
the ad.
Announced before the console ever actually launched. Technical problems forced the add-on to get delayed and delayed and delayed until it finally released in 1999, being a massive failure
Yo.
outside Japan. Because the 64DD caught on less than CJ
Always that.
numerous games planned for it were either moved to cartridges or canceled outright. Super Mario Disc version was one of the games that suffered the latter fate.
Disc
See,
version.
Shiggy, say hi to him. He wanted to include
Hi.
content on Mario 64 like Luigi, and I'm sure there's other stuff too, but who cares about that? However, due to technical restraints, this could not be accomplished by the time of the N64's launch. So, the devs could just save all their extra ideas for a new version of the game on the old DD. Not only was space less limited, but
Not this sad
a
again.
little more oomph to the N64's power, allowing for better textures and more fleshed out content. Outside of that, there's really not a ton of specifics. We don't know how far Super Mario 64 DD ever actually got in development, or if it was even planned for a public release. We do know it was shown at Space World 1996 as a playable demo, though it was basically just the original N64
Okay.
game with no visible changes. Some of these answers
Oh,
were filled, but a French
okay.
collector just so happened to find this sitting on a shelf of a secondhand game store in Japan. I can only imagine this as some sort of moment on the level
Really?
in golden 1849 California for the collector. With a bit of assistance, the game was ripped and dumped online for the public to enjoy. The game is basically the Super Mario 64 we all know and love, with most differences being superficial at best. The biggest is probably the new title screen, which replaces the Mario head. They really want you to know that this copy is personalized. Aside from that,
Okay.
it's based on the Shindu version of the game, which patched many glitches in the original release, albeit the disc version has updated textures, different music for Peach's castle, and larger load times.
Okay.
It's crazy to think that this game just made it out into the open like this under Nintendo's watchful eye. Of all games, right? Nintendo even made a full label for it and everything, meaning that this copy was likely more of a demo to show to the press. It's still not known if any other work
Okay.
was done on the game after the point in which this build was made. Even today, so much intrigue remains about this disc. As I just alluded to,
Right.
64
Again!
for cancellations and reworkings for many different games.
Bro really loves this ad.
64DD may be the X factor, but there's one more Mario game that was planned only to move to a tragedy. Super Mario RPG 2 was planned to be, and I mean this lightly, a quote-unquote sequel to the original game on the SNES. The concept
Okay.
of Mario characters as flat 2D cutouts set within a three-dimensional world, creating the illusion of a comic strip or puppet show. If this sounds
Okay.
familiar, you're not tripping. The game was turned into Dr. Mario 64 after the failure of the disc drive.
Ah, okay.
The game was turned into Paper Mario. The game featured many differences, especially in its art style. Mario
This
had
part
actually
was
lied
exactly the
about
same.
the title screen was obviously
The rock
different
part.
to accommodate for the game's original name. Poochie is here, for some reason. There's levels shown that aren't anywhere in the final game. Super Mario RPG 2 is truly the textbook example of an early build of an iconic game. Same song, dance, and jig. I'm a glass half full type, but even I can't see any hope with the Super Mario RPG 2 name getting found. Never say never, I guess. If the Pokemon Gold and Silver Space World demos got found, we might as well
Not
find ourselves
Pokemon.
in the future. Breaking
Not
news,
Pokemon.
Fredbear has lied at the age of
5518.
the cause of the lying, failure to compensate for an unreleased set of games in the Mario Artist series. This was once again a series that originates from the 64DD, intended to be a successor franchise to Mario Paint on the SNES. Despite their intentions on being a killer app for the add-on, intentions can only get you so far when the thing is losing money. Only 4 of the planned 8 Mario Paint games ended up releasing: Mario Artist Paint Studio, Mario
Bro,
Artist
I'm really lost now.
Kit, and Mario Artist Polygon Studio. I would explain these all to you, but to put it bluntly, I'm your reporter, not your teacher. The other 4 games that were chopped and chiseled into non-existence were Game Maker, Graphical Message Maker, Sound Maker, and Video Jockey Maker. Game Maker would have been, well, what do you think? It would have probably been like Mario Maker. Graphical Message Maker, despite its mundane name, would have allowed users to send graphical messages to other users through the 64DD's RANDNet service. Probably. Sound Maker would have probably allowed a user to channel their inner Mozart and make sounds or music or the sound of music. The most broad-sounding one is Video Jockey Maker, which could have entailed any sort of video-making activities. There's really not many specifics known about these games, considering the Mario Artist series was already on a sinking ship known as the 64DD. If only these games were in the Mario Artist series! Aha, plot twist. See, what I
Okay.
just told was a commonly accepted fact until around a year ago, when more research was done primarily by Digino Gaming. Remember them? It turns out that these
Okay.
games were actually being developed separately by RANDNet, with no relation to Mario whatsoever. The only one with any truth to being a Mario Artist game was Soundmaker, as coincidentally a European developer by the name of Software Toolworks was also trying to develop
Okay.
Mario Artist Soundmaker to coincide with the release of Mario Artist Paint Studio. Yeah, there were 2 different Soundmaker games, one related to Mario and the other not so much. Soundmaker, of course, ended
Okay.
up getting scrapped, and so were RANDNet's Maker games. Regardless, I figured I would include it for completion's sake. Just like
Okay.
that, we're finally out of the N64 era. It's been a long ride so far, and guess what? We're only about halfway done. If you've made it this far through all my god-awful humor, perhaps you would enjoy hitting the subscribe button
Awful humor.
of approval on the vid.
Bro.
Seriously though, it would mean a lot if you did, and I hope you are having a wonderful day. Now it's time to get into the missing Mario.
We are
Kart game,
here.
Everyone's favorite antithesis to the sphere, the GameCube.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean we're talking about Luigi? I'm going to combine the next 2 entries together.
Yeah.
Since they both cover facets of religion.
I think we saw this one too.
Luigi's Mansion is one of the most interesting games ever, simply because it was so unique in its time. Like, you're telling me they made a whole game about the Green Man? The same one Biden said wasn't a big deal?
Green Man.
Nintendo needed to do their due diligence in announcing this spectacle to the public, so they meticulously crafted an FMV demo of the game that would be shown at Space World 2000. It started with some outside shots of the mansion,
Okay.
into the inside, where we see some chairs.
Yeah.
that defy
We saw
time.
this.
Luigi gets spooked by some ghosts. A lot of ghosts. The demo ends with this ominous shot, zooming out of the play as we find a dastardly-looking Luigi with nothing but darkness in his face. If you know anything about the early days,
Yo, what?
you've probably seen this shot before. It's one of the few things we had from this FMV. That, and some of the footage was reused in the trailer for the game shown at E3 2001, totaling around 8 seconds of the full 36. It wasn't until November 24th, 2021, when Adam Dory posted the entire thing to YouTube. Dory was a webmaster for a site
Okay.
which existed in the early 2000s, with the site just so happening to host the full FMV until it was taken down in 2003. Dory just had it sitting around doing jack squat for all those years. However, this
Okay.
FMV is just one facet to the pre-release content of Luigi's Mansion. The game was heavily featured at Space World 2000 and at E3 the following year. It went through the typical change and refinement we've come to expect by now. Some of the more notable differences in these early builds include the presence of a clock on the Game Boy Horror, the cut chef and basher ghosts, the overheat meter being at the middle of the screen, and a different design for the Poltergust 3,
Yeah.
as well as other minor elements. The changes made to this game throughout the development process are generally more tame than other Mario games, but still fascinate us Nintendo-pilled Virgin Jacks all the same. As you could probably guess, none of the builds from any time during this game's development are available to be played.
Okay.
I don't just sound like a broken record at this point. The record was shattered long ago. But Luigi is a good guy who stars in good games. What about his purple bad boy alter ego? What exactly was he up to during this time?
Okay.
Luckily for us,
Oh no!
Waluigi was...
Not this one again.
Yeah, that's right. In 2000, Nintendo graced our computer screens by releasing a flash game called Waluigi's Toenail Clipping Party. Or Waluigi.
No.
I'm sure there's an actual debate somewhere as to the official name of this experience. And an experience it truly was.
Not again.
You see, the game was created to promote the release of Mario Tennis, aka the game Waluigi made his purple carpet reveal to our senses in. I'll just read the excerpt about the game from the September 2000 issue of Nintendo Power Funny Tone and let it sink in. Mamma mia, it's Waluigi. He's so bad he sold Luigi's underwear on eBay. Which raises an interesting question. Who bought the stuff? Luigi.com. He's lean, he's mean, he's physical. Yes, with hopes of finally overthrowing Mario's reign as the video game king, Wario has enlisted the help of the big fellow with a nasty smirk and burning hatred of good old Luigi finally shows his ugly mug in Mario Tennis. And to mark the momentous occasion, we're giving the purple one his very own website. You can check out www.waluigi.com for all your evil sidekick needs, photos, secret information, and all the wacky hijinks you could ever design.
The voice.
The Waluigi's Toenail Clipping Party. It seems that everyone's favorite mustachioed mischief maker has go. It's up to you to help it. With those nails filled, be sure to aim for the jar, or you'll be left with
The ideas. The ideas.
all over your hard drive. Ew. Was that
Ew.
content warning?
Yes.
I think I've
You.
seen this in the past for that one. So, yeah, the game was about clipping Waluigi's toenails. It was located on a subsect of the Mario Tennis website. The version of it shows a coming soon. For the files surrounding the game.
My dog is crazy. Keep it going.
Or coming.swf, toenails.swf, presumed to be the game itself, as well as two other files which may or may not be related to it. Paint_the_lines.swf and deface_painting.swf. I think I just had to erase my brain like Squidward did in that one episode of SpongeBob. Now, do we have these files? No, we don't. Frankly, I wish we did. Speaking of purple, what
No.
color is having a generation
I don't wish.
run with Mario Lost Media right about now? Because now it's time to talk about a
Oh yeah, this one we saw too already. Yeah.
You almost certainly know this one. The story goes as follows. In August of 2000, I posted this image of what should be either a mock-up or some sort of lost tech demo. It shows a purple Yoshi in what seems to be an on-rail shooter, locking
Okay.
up an obstacle with his tongue. Well, the image officially originates from IGN's website. Further investigations led to the discovery of an image on the Lost Levels forum from a month earlier in August, which linked to what is presumed to be the original source. An IGN boards thread showing a pixelated version of the image, teasing you that you can see the full, high-quality image if you sign up for their handheld board. Apparently,
Okay.
corresponding. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem this high-quality image has made it into the present day. We only have the dinky-ass one. A few other small
The
discoveries
dinky
were made,
ass.
but it seems this image is still mysterious in the present. Was it a mock-up? A demo? A game? I mean, there was another Yoshi-themed tech demo for the GBA. That got dumped online a while ago and resembles nothing from this image. So, like, what? A totally random question off the top of my head. Does anyone remember ShroomTube? I miss that guy a lot. He was one of the early pioneers of lost media content on this platform. The reason I was reminded of him was because in a lot of his videos, whenever he was going to cover a well-known entry, he would say, quote-unquote, "Getting to a
Okay.
big one here." And certainly we are getting to a big one here. Hold the curtain back.
Oh, we saw this one too.
Kanye style as an extra bright opposite this. Because Super Mario 128 is the lost media your father warned you about. This was yet another one of those wonderful things to come out of Space World 2000. Being a tech
My
demo
father
with
warned me about, oh god.
running around where the world contorted and shifted around them. All while they picked up big colored blocks and did whatever the hell this is. Eventually, the world turns into a pizza and flings everything off violently.
Yeah.
The demo was intended to simply show off the GameCube's capabilities, because you sure as hell weren't doing
yeah.
it on N64. Take a wild guess on how many Marios that console could support. 128 really wasn't anything special at the end of the day, just something Nintendo could show to get people hyped. At least, that's what it seemed at the time. For whatever reason, the Big N would continuously tease Super Mario 128 both before and after the demo as if it were some actual game. In 1997, it was initially brought up as the potential name for a sequel to Super Mario 64.
Oh, okay. We didn't know about this part.
Dubious at best. Way later, in 2005, good old Reggie and Miyamoto were both asked about the demo. Miyamoto specifically stated that the project was more of an experiment and that elements would be later integrated into the upcoming Super Mario Galaxy. A year later, another interview with the man upstairs confirmed that the game was shelved, but many of the elements in the demo were used in Pikmin, Metroid Prime, Super Mario Galaxy, and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. So that seems to explain everything. Super Mario 128
Yeah.
was never really a game in the traditional sense. It simply had elements that were incorporated into other games, some really massive games, mind you. Speaking of massive, the tech demo still remains lost, however.
Here we go again.
We'll ever see it. So, case closed for now, I guess. My mother always told me that I need to go outside more, or touch grass and get some sunshine. I responded by booting up the GameCube and hitting up all the hotties in Delfino Plaza. See, I'm getting sunshine, Mom. Yeah, okay, this game has some early builds too, so let's get cooking on that. At Space World 2001, the very final Space World ever held, the public got their first glimpse of the game in a very, very early form. Like, we're talking levels of prototypeness not achieved since the days of World in 64. Prototypeness? Is that a word? Yeah, we're going with it. The trailer shown at the
Okay.
event shows Mario running about Delfino Plaza, where we see a certain infamous cut enemy known in the final game's files as Hino Curry 2, and actual human beings splattered around the landscape instead of those things. Pinatas, I think they're called, or something. The HUD is also quite different, though that's basically a given at this point. This build was simply built differently compared to what we would get in the future. It's almost Super Mario Sunshine, yet everything is just off. The game was then subsequently seen by the visitors of E3 in
Wait.
2002, who got to see a more finalized version of what we would get in the final
Okay.
game. Firstly, the logo differs mildly, as it lacks some
Yo.
really lacking a shine spray. The life counter also pulled a Mario 64 early build on move and shows numbers instead of the pie wedges. There are also floating piranha bombs in the sky. That's not right. Much like how you just can't play any of these aforementioned builds. Miyamoto has them locked up forever and ever. Sorry. It's time to turn that M upside down.
Okay. Phew.